Hi there. As you probably know, my name's Danny Hickling and I'm a registered psychotherapeutic counsellor with the UKCP and also registered with the BACP as a counsellor. I'm just going to, if you've watched my first video, which I did, I kind of did a video on anxiety and the effects of fight and flight. Now, the good news is what we're going to do here is some really simple breathing techniques, but the good news is that despite the fact that there's a lot of messages come down from our brain which get our body ready for action and ready for the old fighting or flighting kind of scenario, although this kind of happens, that often triggers make us anxious, which then make our heart race faster, breathing go faster, upset our stomach, make our legs tingly, and a whole numerous set of symptoms that come with anxiety and the effects of fight and flight. Luckily, we do actually have some element of control over this, and it's easy to forget that when we're feeling anxious. What I'm going to do is just some real simple breathing exercises and relaxation techniques, which are going to actually send a message from our body to our mind that actually, you know, things aren't quite what the mind thinks. We can actually slow down. We're not quite in such an anxious, terrifying state that we think we are in at the time. So luckily, the one thing we can do, of course, we can't take control of our heart rate. We can't take control of the fact that our stomach's turning over. But one thing we can actually do, which is often overlooked, of course, is to quite simply breathe at a slower rate. And breathe at a rate which doesn't actually key our body up ready for action, but actually slows it down ready for relaxation or a close to sleep type state. There's two aspects to our nervous system. There's what's called the sympathetic nervous system, which is the bit which induces anxiety, and then there's the parasympathetic nervous system, which is a bit which actually induces relaxation and sleep. And by doing some breathing techniques in this video, we're actually going to trigger off the parasympathetic nervous system and get our body into a more relaxed state. So I've waffled on for long enough. We're going to get down to the really simple technique of breathing. So what we're going to do is we're going to breathe out for longer than we breathe in. Now, this actually decreases the amount of oxygen in our bloodstream, which kind of we kind of need for energy, but we're actually trying to reduce a little bit of the energy we've got in our body, because anxiety is excess energy in many ways. So we're actually going to breathe out for longer than we're going to breathe in, and that's the kind of key thing that we're going to try to do here. Now, a good place to start with starting with a breathing technique is actually to breathe out. Now, what we don't want to do, we don't want to just go and breathe out all the air in our lungs quickly and rapidly. We actually want to slow down this process. So we kind of want to let that air out at a steady pace. So a good way of kind of measuring that pace out is to breathe out through our mouth first of all, rather than our nose. So if we kind of purse our lips gently and start by breathing out, going now, just to pause for a moment, then we'll breathe in. Now, as we breathe in, we'll breathe in to the count of 6 and out to the count of 8. So in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then pause for a moment and then out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then pause for a moment, a bit like a wave going in and out on the tide. So we've breathed out, and then in for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then pause, then out for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just keep those breaths going in and out. So in for 6 and out for 8. So while I'm talking, just let that kind of go through. Just counting as you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. The important thing to do is to actually get that consistent number. So it could be that you might want to tweak it slightly. It could be that you breathe in for 5 and out for 8, as an example. But keep the counting consistent when you're breathing out to when you're breathing in. Now, in another video, I'm going to add another dimension to this and actually do some visualization. So kind of taking you to a relaxation, a place which you associate with relaxation, a place you associate with feeling safe, feeling calm. But just for now, keep those numbers going with a breathing. The more we've obviously, when we're in a state of anxiety, it's often taken us a long time to get there, and we've spent a long time being anxious. So it does take a while to be not anxious. You'll often feel some results straight away, but really to be really successful, you kind of want to keep that going at least a couple of times a day. So maybe like 5 minutes a couple of times a day will start to kind of just bring down that level of anxiety. In another video, I'll talk a little bit about the zone of tolerance, which is about bringing down that constant state of anxiety so that we can actually tolerate the peaks and the lows that we get throughout the day. Whereas if we're up on an anxious state, it doesn't take much to tip us off the edge and get into a real panicky state. So try practicing those simple breathing techniques. Keep the numbers consistent, so as in for 6 and out for 8 as an example. So always a little bit longer on an out breath. You might want to keep counting those numbers in your head whilst you do the breaths, because often another feature of anxiety is we have busy minds when we're anxious. So, you know, keeping those numbers counted in your head can actually be a distraction from often the thoughts that are making us anxious in the first place. If, however, you find that actually the numbers are slightly irritating and get in the way eventually, then you can just let those numbers go. And once you've got through counting for 3 or 4 breaths in and out, then just let the pattern kind of follow, and you'll kind of pick it up as second nature eventually. So anyway, I've waffled enough. Go away and by all means give that a practice and see how you get on, because it's amazing that such a simple thing can actually have a lot of power. A simple thing as breathing can actually remind us that we are a little bit more in control than what we think. We can actually, even if it's just for a few precious minutes, go back to a calmer state. And once we obviously believe and can see the results that we can get into a calmer state, then obviously it puts a bit of control back in us. But, you know, we're not completely out of control of our bodies. We can actually take control of them sometimes. By all means, email me if you want any more feedback, and if you're in Norfolk, obviously you've got the details of me for counselling if that ever is of interest. Thanks so much. Bye bye.